gentlemen, this is my last talk. I have asked the entertainment section to please organize a time and a place so that we can have questions and answers. Some of you have already asked me some very easy questions, like, is there any similarity between apartheid and Palestine and South Africa? You know, the easy questions. It should be announced in your daily program. I always have a problem with this particular talk. It's the area I've probably written most about. And as you know, it's also the topic that all of us know least about, right? You've heard of stock prices and house prices, and very few, if any, picked up the trends before they became apparent. And I always say that the so-called experts and the experts spend the first half of their career showing why something is impossible. And then when it happens, they spend the rest of their career showing why it was inevitable. Think of the fall of the Berlin Wall, communism, South Africa, and so on. Part of the problem is that all of us are selectively blind. And by that I mean we almost always see what we expect to see. And I know as an outsider looking into, for example, the United States, half the people say the country's in rack and ruin and going to the dogs or the Tea Party or whatever, and the end is near. And the other half in the same country will say, just give the president time, the fundamentals are in place, everything's going to be all right. So it's a very important reality that all of us see what we expect to see. If you expect to see South Africa that is not going to make it, that's going to implode, there is plenty of evidence to support that view. If you believe that South Africa is going to make it, become a entrenched, consolidated democracy, there is plenty of evidence to confirm that. The big danger is what I call the self-fulfilling prophecy. The self-fulfilling prophecy. In specific terms, a lot of very skilled whites left South Africa because they did not believe that peaceful change was possible. And we've already discussed them, and you all know the skilled, largely white South Africans in your own community. So in the 60s, 70s, 80s, the South African community hemorrhaged a lot of white talent because they believed that peaceful change under apartheid was impossible. Since the ANC has been in power, there has been a continuation in the hemorrhage. But this time, whites have been joined by colored people, Indians, and African skilled people who are leaving the country. And they're leaving the country for one of two reasons. Either because of crime, or more importantly, because they do not believe that in the long term, they will have a future for themselves, their children, and their grandchildren. And that brings the danger that I was mentioning, the danger of the self-fulfilling prophecy. If enough skilled people do not believe that South Africa has a future, if enough skilled people leave the country, they will in fact abort the possibility that the country will in fact prosper. I've called today's talk South Africa, No More Miracles question. And I think you would all agree that if we had to design a country that was destined to fail, we couldn't have done better than the apartheid rulers. They created a society in which there was rigid separation between the various groups. They created an exploitative labor system. They ensured that to be white was to be privileged, and to be black was in fact to be exploited. So it was a society characterized by massive racial prejudices and massive inequalities. Now, there are obviously two questions or two sub-questions in answering my big question, no more miracles. Will South Africa remain essentially a first world society? We know many societies in Africa and Asia that had a first world infrastructure and gradually progressed or retrogressed back to third world status. The power system failed, the roads imploded, the school system disappeared as teachers left.